These days, Wroxeter is just a small village, some 5 miles east of Shrewsbury, but it was the fourth largest city in Roman Britain, with a population of perhaps 10,000 or more. It covered an area of over 170 acres, about the same size as Pompeii. Aerial and geophysical surveys have detected over 250 separate buildings in the city, of which only around 10 have been thoroughly excavated and examined, outlined on this plan in red. The largest building excavated is the city baths, with a nearby market and shops in the same block. This large area was the baths basilica, where people exercised prior to bathing. This would have been a tall covered building, 2-3 stories high. These two rooms at one end of the basilica were the changing rooms, from where bathers would enter the bathhouse through the large doorway in what is now known as the Old Work. This large fragment known as the Old Work is part of the basilica wall and is the largest freestanding Roman relic in Britain. The rows of holes in the Old Work are where wooden scaffolding was fixed during the construction of the basilica. These holes would have been hidden along with the bare stonework beneath layers of plaster when the building was finished and operational. In the main part of the bathhouse were 3 separate baths: cold, warm and hot. The cold bath was the one nearest the basilica. Then came the warm, and finally the hot, which was the furthest point from the basilica and nearest the furnace room. The columns in this area represent the position of the hypocausts on which the floor of the building rested, the space beneath being heated as appropriate by means of hot air generated in a nearby furnace room. There were also hollow pipes in the walls feeding warm air into the rooms. What have the Romans ever done for us? How about underfloor heating and warm air ducting? Water for the baths was heated in tanks in the furnace room and fed via piping into the baths as appropriate. Looking back from the main furnace room through the baths towards the Old Work. On either side of the main baths were smaller rooms with cold and warm baths, but this time with a hot, dry room, effectively what we would now call a sauna. After the hot bath or sauna, it was customary for the bather to return to the cold bath, either the one in the bathhouse or in this outdoor pool nearby. In one corner of the bathhouse block was a small market hall, originally 2 stories high, with 9 or 10 small shops around a courtyard. These dealt in expensive and exotic goods for the wealthier inhabitants of the city. Next to the market hall were 2 larger shops, thought to have been bars serving food and drink. As these fronted the main street through the city, known as Watling Street, they catered for travellers as well as the locals. Behind these shops was a large public latrine. The exact arrangement is unknown, except for the drain running along one side, fed by wastewater from the baths. Across the street was the Forum. This was the heart of the city, housing administration, justice and trading functions. Some of the Forum has been excavated, but it is now covered over, the only visible part being this line of colonnades alongside Watling Street. On a raised bed behind is a brand new house. A recreation of a Roman townhouse made for a television programme in 2010 and built entirely using materials and techniques available in Roman times. Although only a small house, it contains some 10 tons of timber, 10 tons of stone and 36 tons of lime was used for the mortar and plaster which went into the building of it. One of the rooms of the house has a display of various wall building techniques, starting with a timber frame filled with wattle and daub, progressing to a more rigid wooden frame filled with daub or plaster, and then a timber frame with discrete blocks of clay, looking very similar to bricks. Interior walls were made from a fine mesh of wattle coated in plaster, and there is even a Roman fire extinguisher in the corner. The stone building adjoining the house is a small bath complex with the cold, warm and hot baths. A house this size would probably not have had one, but if the house continued around the courtyard and made into a very large house, it would probably have been so equipped. It is possible to think of this house as being but 1/4 of an actual large Roman villa. Very impressive it must have been.